Hello, Meoni here, and welcome back to another patch note reading, this time to look at the notes for patch 5.21, which releases today, the 10th of March 2020. Now, the patch notes themselves are live. If you want to go and see those, go and click on the description link below. However, let's look through this. Essentially, the patch is predominantly focused around the Ishgard Restoration second update, which includes, obviously, all of the content you would imagine from there, including timed quest events with server-wide progression, some quests themselves, storyline stuff, as well as a new Diadem overhaul and a few miscellaneous updates as well. The Skysteel tools, which are the crafted relic weapons, if you want to call them, for lack of a better name, are not in this patch, and neither is the Save the Queen Blades of Gunhilda relic weapons for your combat rolls. Those are not in this patch either. Those both are going to be in patch 5.25. The stuff in 5.21 includes the Ishgard Restoration, new emotes, hairstyles, and obviously the overhyped parasol feature, which hopefully we get some more information about soon. So without further ado, let's look through this. So obviously there's a section on new quests to do with the Ishgard Restoration. These, funnily enough, pick up in the firmament of Ishgard itself. So remember, you can actually talk to the Aetheryte in Ishgard to transport directly to the firmament. You don't have to go to any NPC or anything like that. So that's an easy way to go and pick up where you left off. And basically, there's a few miscellaneous features on these patch notes. They're not too big, so let's look through them. So firstly, they show a section on housing. This actually features some new bits. Some of this most likely will be from the Ishgard Restoration. You'll see there that there are pictures in the back there of Horshafont and Aymeric, and you can get those for your house walls. People have been requesting those for the longest time. There's quite a few portraits in the game, but those have been highly requested, so you'll be able to finally get your hands on those. It doesn't obviously say where all of this stuff is. You'll see there's like a coat rack at the back there, a very interesting looking table with sort of like Moogle branch legs, interesting, and a Moogle sort of buffet sort of seat thing. Very interesting. New Orchestrion rolls, they say, have been added to the game. That's presumably for the new Ishgard stuff, but we'll have to wait and see. In the Gold Saucer, it says there are new Triple Triad cards that have been added to the game. Again, no specifications at this time. And then we have the miscellaneous stuff. So the new emote that people have been hyped for, the Eating Bread emote, I believe it's called. I think it's also /breakfast. That's the other short command for that. Has been added to the game. That's confirmed to be from Ishgard Restoration. And someone else the other day was asking me where the new hairstyle was supposed to be acquired from. This was actually from a hairstyle design contest that Square Enix ran a long time ago. Well, this was in the 5.2 preview, but it turns out that it was actually releasing in this patch, so no doubt that'll be from Ishgard Restoration or something like that as well. We'll just have to wait and see when we get into the game. For battle system changes, there's only a few little bits, but these are quite interesting as well. They say players will now receive the power of the Echo in Eden's Gate, which is the first wing of Eden. This is up to 10% potency on the Echo, so that should help people who have yet to clear that on normal mode. Obviously, Eden's Gate is kind of inferior now, since we have Eden's Verse replacing it, essentially, as the second tier. Next we have, in the Chronicles of a New Era quest Uninvited, the cast time of the Red Chocobo's Choco Meteor has been increased. And here's an interesting one. The following changes have been made to the battle with Thunder God in Orbon Monastery. So a lot of people find Thunder God specifically quite a tricky fight for whatever reason, especially in pug groups. And it says, the damage dealt with Shadowblade Dome's overlap has been reduced, so you can pretty much stack those. Well, I imagine you wouldn't be able to stack those now, but they won't hurt as much. The duration of a bleeding debuff applied by Shadowblade has been reduced, so that's a significant nerf. The damage dealt when too few players are standing on the Duskblade circle has been reduced, so there's a affordability for people not actually doing the mechanics. And the potency of the burst attack used by the Ice Wolves has been reduced, and the effect of the vulnerability up debuff has been weakened. So there's significant changes to Orbon Monastery related majoritively to Thunder God. I think that really was one of the blockages to Orbon Monastery, but I don't think it was the only blockage to that particular Alliance raid for most people. Personally, I've got no problem with it. I find the difficulty fine, but, when you do get it pop in your roulettes, sometimes you do cringe a little bit, especially when you see people trying to figure stuff out for the first time. So hopefully that will help people out in the long run. So next up, there's a section on items. They say new items have been added, but they're not going to post them at this point, and same with the new recipes. So obviously with new Ishgard Restoration stuff, there are new recipes and new items to actually craft with those recipes, and new rewards from turning them in. Surprise, surprise. So now we have a section, quite a lengthy section on the Ishgard Restoration itself. So let's go through this. They say new areas are available for restoration. And of course, there are new areas of Ishgard that we progressed to since we completed the first part. And there's a requirement to actually continue this, which is towards the firmament. That's something you need to have completed before. You can actually pick this up with Augbert, the NPC, in the actual firmament at X11.4, Y14.1, they say, while using any class or job at level 60 or above to experience the latest chapter in the Ishgard Restoration. So that's pretty much just going to be the story elements. You're not going to have recap of what happened with the turn-ins, but that should bring you up to scratch if you haven't touched the restoration efforts yet, and allow you to access the new stuff. So there is actually new restoration materials. It says to coincide with the updates of the restoration, new materials can be crafted and submitted. Obviously, it does say in red text, though, the Ishgard Restoration materials from the previous chapter may still be submitted, but the reward amounts have been reduced. This is something we expected. If you thought that you could stockpile a ton of materials, craft something that you normally would turn in, and get the same out of it, then you're going to be sorely mistaken. I would imagine it's still going to be pretty useful, though, but there we go. Kupo of Fortune has been added. This is the scratch-off tickets. You must be level 20 or above to actually, be able to participate in Kupo of Fortune, so it's actually available for quite low levels there. And essentially, when you turn in things for your Sky Builder scripts, some of them will be marked with a Kupo of Fortune sort of red mark with a palm on it on the actual turn-in list, and this signifies that you'll get a stamp towards the Kupo of Fortune, which allows you to exchange those for actual Kupo of Fortune cards to scratch off for random items. They say once you have collected 5 stamps, you may exchange the voucher for a Kupo of Fortune card, and you may carry up to 10 Kupo of Fortune cards at any one point. The items that offer stamps vary according to the player's crafter class level. So interestingly enough, you might actually see some pretty decent rewards based on your level there. They're not all going to be level 80. As you can see in this screenshot, we have grade 2 artisanal Sky Builder chandelier with a 4,500 collectability, which gives you a Kupo of Fortune. But at the same time, we have a grade 2 Sky Builder's oven there being turned in with only 1,350 collectability. You only get 30 scripts, but you do get the same stamp as well. So there are the easy options, and presumably they've made this for all levels, since you can take part in it from level 20 and above, which is quite nice. And to actually play a Kupo of Fortune hand, you need to go talk to apparently Lisbeth, an NPC at X12.2, Y14.6 in the firmament. And essentially, they're explaining that on each card, there are 4 treasure chests depicted by hexagons, 1 on the left and 3 on the right. You may choose 1 chest to scratch open. The lone chest on the left offers 2nd to 4th prize, while the 3 chests on the right offer 1st to 5th, with the 5th being a consolation prize. The prizes available change each time, and we recommend that you review the prize list before playing. So every card's going to be different, and there's a percentage of getting everything there, so you have to choose your luck essentially and roll with it. So obviously Diadem has been re-added. This is gathering only. We're not going to talk about this too much, but essentially it's a great place where you can gather certain materials for your turn-ins, your crafted recipes for Ishgard Restoration. And of course, there's quite a bit of extra content in there. You can also level in there from, I believe, level 10. You can be a miner, botanist, or a fisher at level 10, and that gives you access to the new Diadem, which is gathering only. And you can be in a party size of 1 to 8 players. You get 180 minutes in there, and there are no item level requirements. So that's pretty fair. Obviously, you've got increased experience gain to help you level those up if you have yet to level them all the way up. In regards to Diadem itself, there are special weather conditions inside, where apparently some items can only be gathered under certain weather conditions. Should such conditions occur, it is the ideal time to seek out these rare items. So obviously, a little bit like time nodes and stuff, this will be weather dependent and time dependent on what's actually up. So that'll be quite exciting if you enjoy that in the open world. We also have this compressed ether bar on your screen. You fill this by essentially gathering. And when you've, actual gather a node, it will fill part of this meter. Essentially, when you fill one of these bars of compressed ether, you're able to fire the Aetheromatic Auger, which is a cannon which will vaporize a monster, essentially, or at least defeat slightly a monster. It's unsure whether or not certain monsters might take more than one bar, but essentially there is no combat in there. You can't get yourself into combat. It's just a way of destroying the passive entities that inhabit the Diadem, which is how they managed to do it, with gathering only. Apparently there is a thing called Item Inspection, an NPC called Flot Passant, or Flot Passoir, I don't know how you pronounce it, in the firmament, will inspect any items gathered in the Diadem, and you'll see here that essentially you have automatic submission and request inspection, and it will give you scripts depending on what you've got. So the diagram here shows that grade 2 Sky Builder's copper, and then it turns into approved grade 2 Sky Builder's copper. So you get the stamp of approval, and it will give you 2 scripts as a return. So I presume those are 2 Sky Builder scripts, which is pretty useful actually. So gathering is now a thing that you can totally do. You can just spend a lot of time inside Diadem, gather as much to your heart's content, and then go and submit it all and get your scripts that way. So that's not actually too bad. Next up, there's the Resource Requirements subcommand has been added to the crafting log. By selecting this subcommand for Ishgard Restoration recipes, you can see how many inspected and uninspected materials you have in your possession. This is a quality of life thing. Obviously, if you have a load of stuff from Diadem, you want to know how much is in there. And the Resource Requirements, that's a nice quality of life for you actually tracking what you have and what you don't have. Skyward points can now be earned by submitting or inspecting certain Ishgard Restoration items. Accumulated scores are tallied separately for each Disciple of Hand and Land class and count towards various achievements. That's interesting. I believe that's because there's the new ranking system, which they talk about here, which actually, if you're in the top of something, then you will actually get a rank, and I believe titles at the end of like a ranking period, sort of like a PvP season, which is quite interesting. They say for a given period, each player's Skyward points are tallied and listed on the lodestone. The Skyward points earned during the ranking period are known as the seasonal score. Players finishing in high ranks will be eligible for rewards and achievements. And apparently this first ranking period lasts from the release of 5.21 until the 20th of March at 6 a.m. GMT. Seasonal scores are tallied for each class, with rankings divided by world and class. And seasonal scores can only be accumulated on a player's home world. They put this in red here because obviously they don't want people on other servers coming over and messing up the rankings. You can actually view the rankings in-game by talking to an NPC called Ludo Vran at the actual firmament itself, which is interesting. So now we have the expert recipes added to the game if you're excited about something different with crafting. It says, while these recipes are harder to craft, they are worth more points when submitted to the Ishgard Restoration. Expert recipes are indicated with an icon in the crafting log. So here we are on the heads-up display with the big red text and the diamond symbol there that says expert recipe. And obviously we have some authentic turned-in stuff. So you'll see that the materials themselves are majoritively approved materials from Diadem as well. So, but are of different grades. So you have to actually go and do Diadem, it looks like, for some of this stuff. So you have to do a bit of everything to really get there. So the recipes themselves are supposed to be quite interesting as well with unique effects. They say, while crafting these recipes, the condition will not change to excellent or poor. However, in addition to normal and good, the following new conditions may occur. Centered is a new condition that increases action success rate by 25%. Sturdy reduces the loss of durability by 50%. Apparently, this effect can be stacked with Waste Not and Waste Not 2. And Pliant, which reduces the CP cost by 50%. So there's actually quite some interesting buffs here, but they're to help you essentially through certain ability presses to actually allow you to finish off the progression and quality of your turn-in. If you look there, there's quite a bit of a bar to fill, and obviously having those, like for example, Sturdy with the durability loss by 50%, is going to help incredibly. So I imagine that you have to be in some pretty decent gear to be able to do these. They say the previous steps of the Ishgard Restoration can be viewed from the Sky Builder's board in the firmament under past progress. This will give you all of that lore if you missed it of what happened, which is pretty nice. They say information on the Ishgardian Restoration is now displayed in the duty list when you are in the Pillars, Foundation, or the Firmament. For this information to display, you must first complete the side quest towards the Firmament itself. New Sky Builder script items are exchanged from any in the Firmament, as you no doubt imagine. That includes most of the stuff that isn't from Kupo of Fortune, so maybe the new hairstyle, maybe a mount or something like that. Certain gathering spots are no longer available, they say. Gathering spots added in 5.11 for Ishgard Restoration items have been removed from the game. So whilst you can turn in a lot of the stuff that you could craft last time, some of the materials are actually going to be impossible to acquire, so that's quite interesting. But it's a good way of tidying up the game, I suppose, as we go forward. So now we're on to the miscellaneous section. We're nearly at the end of these patch notes. And firstly, the big thing is that parasols have been added. That's umbrellas to me and you. And they say by using a parasol in your inventory, an action will be added to the extra section of the actions and traits menu that allows your character to hold the parasol. We've talked about these before in a previous video, where essentially they're like a mount that you summon. You are pretty much animation locked whilst you're in that state. Only you can actually walk around anywhere in the world, apart from dungeons, I believe, but you're not able to use actions such as combat abilities and things like that whilst you have one out. There's no information here on where you get the parasols from, but I would imagine there'll probably be one from the Ishgard Restoration, and there are multiple colours as far as I know, with plans to add more in the future. They say new mounts have been added. This is adorable. We've looked at this before on a previous video, but this is the new lamb mount or sheep mount, depending on what you want to call this, with the little bell there. That's going to be amazing. That's definitely from the restoration itself, so I'm looking forward to making a video on that shortly. New chocobo barding has been added. I'm not sure what that is, but we'll do a video on that if I can figure out where that's from. And we have this one. New minions have been added, and they show off a Cerberus minion, which is quite interesting. Whether or not this will drop from a quest line or something to do with the Crystal Tower, I'm not sure, but maybe even the Ishgard Restoration, but that's pretty awesome. I would love to get that. That's quite cute. And then finally, there's a really big one. There's brand new dyes added to the game. So if you wanted to dress your character up with brand new dyes, we have Ruby Red, Cherry Pink, Canary Yellow, Vanilla Yellow, Dragoon Blue, Turquoise Blue, Gunmetal Black, Pearl White, and Metallic Brass dye. And there's a little preview there of 4 of those. Those look pretty damn amazing, if I may say so myself. I'm looking forward to trying out some new dyes. Adding dyes to the game is always going to expand whatever you can make in terms of glamour. So I'm looking forward to trying some of those out, and hopefully some of them go better with some of the newer stuff that's craftable in the game. So finally, we have some system additions and changes. They say new achievements and titles have been added to the game, obviously. The achievement mapping the realm, the Diadem, is available once more. The following text commands have been added. I wouldn't read this ordinarily, however, we do have information on those emotes. So /breakfast or /bread actually does the eating bread animation. So we've got 2 commands for that. We've got /read, which appears to be an emote where you pore over a book and read it, and we have /insist, which allows you to speak emphatically to get your point across, so a little bit like elucidate, I would imagine, probably from the restoration as well. We're not going to read here through the resolved issues or known issues, but there's a few minor bug changes, basically. Fixes to the Cinder Drift on normal and extreme, a few deaths that have been fixed and patched out, a few accidental things they forgot to sort of fix up for those fights. But apart from that, there's not really too much there. There's obviously some known issues with some of the turn-ins maybe on Ishgard Restoration, but I would advise you to read that yourself if you're interested. Either way, thank you kindly for watching this video. Obviously, let me know what your highlight of these patch notes is in the comment section below. I'm always interested to see what people think about certain changes and additions. If you're excited at all for the Ishgard Restoration, or if this is going to be the best thing since sliced bread for you. Thank you kindly for watching, and I'll see you all next time.